Good afternoon, Fabio Donetti for Winston Capital Advisors. And a lot to cover this week. Remember, we said that September was going to be a very busy month in terms of news, meetings, etc., etc. But for the week, the market again gained 1.6% on the Dow, 1% on the S&P, and 0.9 on the Nasdaq. So slowly, we're getting close to the all-time highs, and climbing the wall of worries with numbers and events and the like. But let's start first. With looking at, we see that people still keep putting money more on bonds than on equity funds. So in a way, it gives us the idea that people are still okay with borrowing at 1.5%, or lending. I'm sorry, but then they are not willing to go to equity, in which the S&P is almost up 20% for the year, which tells me there is no exuberance there, there is no craziness. So in that view, at least, the market might have more to go up, especially the valuations are not stretched either. So that's where we left on the market. Let's go to some of the news and events. Argentina, not much happening. However, today, Sunday, or the 15th, the IMF was due to make the payment. Some members of the media made a comment that probably IMF will not give it, will give it until October to give more clarity on policy. No one knows. As this afternoon, 4 5 o'clock New York time, I did check, and there was no news on the release or no release of this 4.4 billion for Argentina. Clearly, if they don't get it, the market is not going to be happy, because it's money that they cannot use to make other type of payments. The big news last week: Apple came with new products, new phones, iPad, new streaming devices, new products. In general, good reception on the markets. The stock was up a couple of percentage points. But more interesting is more and more about the camera, more about the selfie, the sharing of the images. Apparently, the camera is very powerful, has 3 lenses, a wide angle and a zoom lens, and a lot of abilities like slow motion and stuff like that. So we'll see. People are doing slow adoption like we had last year, but still the company is doing very well. They also launched a streaming service at $4.99. Very interesting. Excuse me, but however, on the latest comments, it looks like the programs are very, very mild and weak for now. So again, Apple goes slow, has no rush, has all the money in the world, doesn't want to make a mistake. So we'll see where it goes for there. But all in all, the company is doing the right thing. Also had a new watch, and also a big focus on this issue of healthcare, etc. We have CPI that comes slightly above expectations, 2.3, came at 2.4. Little reviews compared to July. Not much really to worry about. Same with the PPI. We had very good retail sales. It came at 0.4. Expected was 0.2, and they revised July up 0.8. Again, this goes with a thinking, a thesis that the U.S. consumer is good. It's 70% of the economy. Consumer confidence is good, and it shows on the numbers in retail sales. So they're positive again for that side. China and U.S. were the big news last week. Looks like, as they get into this negotiation on October, both countries are throwing goodwill signals. The U.S. say that they will postpone new tariffs from October 15th to from October 1st to the 15th, especially because it coincides with the 70 years of the Chinese Republic. But also then the Chinese, counteract by excluding from their tariff a lot of agribusiness products. At first, not the soybeans, which is the largest, but late on Friday, they excluded the soybeans. So I think as both parties are going into this meeting, both are somehow agreeing to do goodwill steps and send signals to everybody, not just the markets, that they mean business and they're willing to somehow cut a deal. At least some people say maybe a smaller deal than expected, but at least a deal on the right steps. In Europe, we had a big move by the USB. They announced the bazooka, which is basically a combination of lowering rates 10 basis points from negative 0.4 to negative 0.5. They will restart the bond buying program. They're talking about 20 billion, not as much as 40 billion as people expected, but they don't have a time frame to end. So basically, they will be doing that. And also, they announced something called tiering, which is This sounds fairly complex and is related to helping the banks not to be hit so much by negative rates. Remember, if you have all these very short-term negative rates, it's not a good business to own a financial institution because it chews up on your equity. So that's there. But also, the European Central Bank revised GDP for this year 1.4 to 1.2, not a big change, but inflation from 1.4 to 1.0. So that's kind of what they were talking about. Um, so that was, okay, sorry. There we work, the saga continues. As we go into the weekend, they were thinking that they will do it, they review some governance, but now we're talking about a 20 billion valuation. We have come all the way down from 47 to 20. Don't know, these are rumors here and there. We'll probably have more news this week because the company has not announced that they were in the canceling or postponing the IPO. The big thing, however, is that over the weekend, Aramco, the Saudi oil company, remember we were talking about the IPO, was attacked by 10 drones. This is the largest refinery in the world. They process 50% of Saudi oil, which is 5 million barrels a day, and they shut it down. So a lot of fear. Who did it? The Yemeni Houthis say they did it. However, the U.S. says they didn't. It was the Iranians that did the attack. Again, 10 drones to this largest refinery in the world. As I'm speaking now, Aramco says that as in Monday, they will reestablish some of oil production, maybe a third of that. Speaking with many people on the market, I'm hearing that oil will open up from $5 to $7, and depends on damages and continuation of this conflict, it can spike higher. Careful, remember, in the last 40 years, recessions comes in two forms: interest rate tightenings and oil shocks. So careful that if this thing accelerates or is more than we think, careful. This refinery represents 5% of the world supply of oil. So if they get out of business, you can have a spike in oil that it could be recessionary. We don't know. We'll follow very closely. Probably tomorrow the market is going to be very, very volatile. We will be following closely. Also this week, we have the United Nations, starts on Tuesday, but more important, Tuesday, Wednesday, the Federal Reserve gets together, and we are expecting a quarter point cut. So we're following a very busy week with this Aramco thing, United Nations, the Fed, and all this kind of news. That's all we have for today. Like always, 8:45 every day, we'll connect. Have a great week.